The planning board. Make sure you're in the right room. I don't think there's anything else going on in town hall tonight, so. We have first case. We need to inform you that as to recording and taping, as required by law, the town may and is audio and video recording this meeting. Any person intending to either audio or video record this open session is required to inform the chair. Apparently nobody. And first matter is a continued matter, PB 2019-27, Witchmere Harbor Real Estate, LLC. And are the Davenport cases separate from the Witchmere Harbor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We're not
Completely
involved in
different
that at all.
Okay. So we'll hear from Witchmere Harbor Real Estate or their representative.
Thank you. This half of the board's not going to be able to see the screen.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Not giving Mr. Harris one.
But you're going to read it so he knows what you're
There
saying.
you go. I will do that. All right. Thank you. Good evening. For the record, my name is Andrew Singer, attorney in Dennisport, here on behalf of the applicant. With me at the table is George Kakitis, the project architect. With us, basically filling up this half of the room, is the project team. And we're all here for questions, as you may have throughout the evening. What I just, and I will read it since Mr. Harris is on the phone. What I just handed you was a one-page document entitled Witchmere Beach Club Redevelopment Project Benefits List. This is a continued hearing, so you were all here. The material that's on here was in our summary of reasoning that we went over and you saw at the last meeting. So we will be much shorter tonight than we were the last time. What I do have the bullets on this project benefits list that I wanted to just reemphasize, which are things that we looked at last time, in which you are reviewing in the site review and criteria that you're looking at for review, is that there will be, with this proposal to redevelop the beach club, no change or intensification in the existing private member-based beach club use. There'll be no change or increase in congestion in public ways and no decrease in traffic safety. There'll be no change in the currently permitted commercial occupancy of the property, which is capped at the maximum 650 seats that we've discussed. The proposal is to modernize the outdated facility to improve efficiency and aesthetics and to enhance the guest experience. As we discussed last time, the last time the beach club was redeveloped was back in the early 1990s. This is an attempt not to grow larger from use, but to improve what is there and to be more modern. The dimensional requirements of the bylaw are met. It's important for site plan review. We are meeting those requirements. Building coverage is conforming. Pre-existing non-conforming site coverage and amenities coverages are both coming down. Those are obviously not things that you look at, the Board of Appeals does, but they are decreasing while green space is going up. Building height, and that's the prime reason we're here tonight, or we came back. You asked us for additional information, which we have submitted and which Mr. Gakitis will go over regarding just clarification so you can understand the proposed height of the replacement restaurant building. That will be conforming, as we'll discuss some more. And what I also wanted to update you is that since we were last here, I told you last time that the Conservation Commission had reviewed and approved the proposal, which is true, and now the Board of Appeals has also unanimously reviewed and approved the proposal, approving the use, or reapproving, or the change, extension, alteration of the pre-existing non-conforming use and the structures. So those portions of the redevelopment have now all been approved. Your approval under the site plan review and, if needed, special permit review is the last step in the redevelopment permitting process. You did ask us for some additional information to clarify the building heights, and Mr. Gakitis will go over that. I did just want to, we gave that information 2 weeks ago, and you do have it as requested, and there'll be some additional photographs that we're gonna show you this evening. The height will be conforming of the replacement restaurant building. It's also gonna be, as you'll see, significantly less high than is allowed in this zone. This zone allows for 50 feet in height. This building, even elevated for flood control, which is what we did with conservation, is going to be significantly less than that, and there is an exhibit that was prepared that graphically shows that as requested. In addition, and you're all familiar with the site, to give you a comparison, and this is on the photos as well, or one of the plans as well, the residential building to the, when you're looking down the water from the north on the left, it's on the east side, but down the left, that building is approximately 50 feet tall. That is the maximum allowed by zoning. This building, at its peak, the cupola at the front, that cupola itself will be 49 feet 8 inches. But that's only for the cupola peak, and so that's conforming. The top roof of the bar area will be under 40 feet, and as you'll see on the plans, and we'll go over it in more detail, the top of the vast majority of the building will be under 26 feet. So most of this building, even elevated, is going to be well under what is allowed by zoning. What we're asking for here tonight is approval of the redeveloped beach club as shown on the plans. We do submit that it complies with the zoning bylaw. The site has long been used for this use, and as I noted, the Board of Appeals has weighed in on this proposal. We submit there'll be no adverse effects of the proposal, that it does comply with the zoning bylaw and therefore warrants the approvals that we're requesting. I know you'll read them, Mr. Chair, but there are at least 3 letters of support that have been submitted for the proposal that are in the record. And during and after Mr. Kakidis' presentation, if you have questions for any of us, for any of the issue areas, we're going to be focusing on architecture because that's what you asked us to last time. But if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. With that, turn it over to Mr. Kakidis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If we could turn to that file I gave you. So the first picture we're looking here is from 1933. This is before any of the Weechmere development or Clemson's clam bar was established. This basically shows a summer house, residential. Most of those homes are about 3.5 stories tall. See, this is.
Wait.
You have the.
Oh, okay. Oh, the pointer.
Is that a pointer?
This is the Snow Inn currently where it is now, and this was the owner's home that owned the Snow Inn. And as I mentioned, you'll see these several private homes within this whole area. But we just want to kind of give you a quick history.
Oh, you can change it.
Oh,
Change
change
it
it.
Oh, great.
This picture is from the late 70s, 1981. This is before Weechmere got involved in the project. You can see that this is the beach club right here. This is I think a 5-story hotel in the front. And then there are several buildings, tennis courts, parking, and the Snow Inn in the back, Clemson's clam bar right there. This is really currently from Google Earth. I just downloaded it the other day. It shows the existing beach club, the green grass where the parking is. It shows the current path to the beach alongside the property. This is a picture coming from Snow Inn Road that shows that roughly the same 1980, late 70s perspective. Oops. As you can see, this is the beach club. And it's basically a very horizontal, kind of sprawling situation that's going on here in the past. This is the approach from Snow Inn Road, and this is the path right here. What we did is we took a perspective artist rendition of what the proposed building will look like, and there it is.
This was one of the requests you had, so you could see how the building is getting it's taller there, but it's actually opening up the middle of the property.
So that view is looking down, basically down the road out toward the water?
Correct.
Thank you.
Well, yes, but you're actually near the end of the road. Can you go back to the?
I understand.
one before?
I know the area.
Yeah, if you were at the top of the hill, it would look smaller because
Yeah,
you'd be
it's-
higher.
You're roughly standing somewhere around here.
Yep.
I mean, the artist hadn't been to the site, so it's kind of.
Yep. Great.
So let's see, go to the next one. Then these are the building elevations in which one of the problems we had last time is that the bullets, which are these guys, represent the elevation from water. So because we're in the velocity zone, that 50-foot mark is actually right here. So we have 50 feet to this point, which is actually, Andrew had said 49 feet, but he was telling you from grade, but the actual restriction height is up here. And we can look at any dimension that you want to identify, from grade as we move around the building. And this is the elevation from Myrtle Beach. And this is the front that the perspective was taken from. And that's actually from the oceanside elevation. This is the drawing. We were asked to compare the existing beach club with what the proposed building would be in an overlay. And so what we did, we were showing three things here. Clearly, the existing beach club that's there now. The white is actually a silhouette of what's proposed. And the gray pochade space is the building height which the building could occupy. So you can get, and then this is from the front that shows the same thing. So this is the actual building height that we can build per code right there. That's the existing, the proposed cupola. And that's right here is the top of the roof of the existing beach club.
And one of the things I think is important, and I think this is a great view that you'd requested to look at, is the building is definitely, by being elevated and expanding, is getting bigger. I'm not saying that it isn't, but it is well under site plan review and under the standards you look at. It's well conforming and actually smaller than a number of the buildings that are already on the property. But we thought that this, whether you'd like to look at this or the artist rendering, they're both, I think, give you a good representation of what's there. And did you have more?
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, that is our presentation, and please welcome questions.
I have a question. You'll be taking the grades for the height of the building from the elevation on the
Yeah,
wall?
there are two dimensions on there. The bullets, which are very difficult to see, represent off water level being 0. And then we took physical dimensions from the grade as we go around the building. So yeah, we can answer.
So the 50-foot mark is from grade around the building?
Correct, and then we're under that even, we could go
Right, I
5
understand that.
Yeah.
feet.
As long as the grades are from, the measurements are from grade,
Yep.
on average.
Okay, anybody else on the board?
So what's your flood stage? What's the flood level? What's the base for the flood?
12,
So you're 12 plus,
50,
12 plus 50.
so 62. Which is that top one right here.
Top of the cupola? Yeah.
No, top.
Or you're saying the top of the grade?
pochade. That's the height we could build up to.
I mean, per the code, obviously needs approval, but that's per the code, and what's being proposed is what's in the white on that overlay.
Anybody else on the board have any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, sorry.
thank you. Is there, you asked about what'd you call it, the flood, 12 feet? Is there a restriction as to what it can be in terms of height? In other words, could it be 30 and you can have 50 feet on top of that? How is that determined?
Or you mean if you raised it higher than the 15 feet, if you
Yeah,
put it 20 feet in the
We're
air?
at 62 now,
Yeah.
because you're under the 50, or under the 50 regulation for the building height, but the 12 feet before you start counting to 50, so 62. So my question is, that 12 feet, could it be 20, could it be 30, and then 50 feet on top of that? As a town, do we have a restriction?
You passed, you did a bylaw last May
Excuse me.
that addressed that. So no.
And it allowed what? If I could you clarify? Just, so it's
I
flood
don't
plus.
have them memorized, but.
You don't?
You can't go any higher than you normally would in the zone. So you can't cumulatively keep going up and up and up.
That's-
I might,
You
Attention to
can't
my
decide
question.
you want your first floor elevation to be at 14 and then go up 50 feet.
Right.
It doesn't allow for that.
But you can start at flood stage and go up the 50.
I believe so, yes.
yeah,
Ultimately, it's gonna be up to the building commissioner.
and in the bylaw, your definition, if I can, Mr. Chair,
sure.
your definition of height went from like this to like this, so I won't read it all, but the main part is the height of the building or structure shall be calculated by averaging the distance between the lowest pre-existing grade point at the base of the building structure and the top of said structure, and then the distance between, and then it says for a building or structure located in a, here, back, I apologize. For a building located in a special flood hazard area, height shall be measured from the base flood elevation in AE zones rather than pre-existing grade, and then in VE zones, it'll be measured from the base flood elevation in the closest AE zone. So that, what's shown is complies with all of that.
Understood.
Yeah.
I just wondered how far.
Yeah.
somebody
It
could
would just
go.
be from the top of the, base flood is where you would be measuring from.
Thank you.
Can I just ask, because the numbers are small?
Yeah, here, you know, I
Oh,
The
yeah,
difference-
We have another one.
No,
yeah.
I'm just curious, what's the height of the center part of the higher roof on the beach grill versus the top of the cupola? I'm just trying to see what that difference is. I know it's not much, but,
it's
Is it-
5.2 inches.
okay,
5.2 inches.
all right, great, thank you.
Anybody else on the board have any questions?
I have a question on the
Certainly.
Thank
coastal
you, that's
buffer
clear.
area. It's,
Coastal buffer?
yeah,
I-
it's
my
L10.
That's in there.
In the engineering set.
She can switch it.
Oh, do you have?
Yeah.
Don't know, we'll find out.
Okay, L10, which is,
Is that the landscape plan?
yes, the landscape plan.
That's the landscape plan.
Yes, so, please,
No, it's
is that the one you're looking at?
landscape.
Okay. What is your,
So my first question is from the channel at Witchmere Harbor. You have a 50-foot coastal buffer on a straight line. And then you have a 100-foot coastal buffer, which has a straight line going north to south. And then above, next to that, you have,
getting the engineer up here. There are intersecting, overlapping lines, and then there's an area that's not in a zone.
so the next question I have is, there's a circle on that plan that says a 100-foot and a 50-foot coastal buffer on that curved line.
Oh, up in the,
Yeah.
sort of the,
Top right.
correct.
Yeah, the 50-foot coastal buffer seems to be further away from the harbor than the 100-foot.
That's correct, because the
Comes
land drops back off behind where the beach club is. So the
Okay.
parking lot is below base flood elevation, so
Right.
it creates another wetland resource area. So we're actually
gotcha.
measuring in from a resource area, flood zone on the backside.
Gotcha.
Anybody else on the board have any questions or comments? Anybody in the audience who wishes to be heard?
Can we have Charlene's notes?
Yep, we'll get to, we need to hear from the planning director first. Thank you.
I'm not gonna go over everything, this application, they've requested no waivers. I'm not gonna go over the, comments from the other boards and departments and committees as I reviewed those the last time. However, I do recommend that, if the board does approve this, that they, impose conditions relative to health requirements and conservation requirements, as well as stormwater. The town engineer is awaiting additional information regarding the stormwater drainage. That should have no effect on the action of this board. Originally, the applicants did propose the use of artificial turf in and around the pool area. This is no longer being proposed. You may have remembered I questioned, okay, what? So the artificial turf is gone, for lack of a better, except for a small area that conservation did approve. But it is not being counted as green space, it's being counted as coverage. Conservation Commission did approve the portions of this project that fall within the jurisdiction, so the area to the north and the area to the south, where it is on either end of the project. Zoning Board of Appeals did approve the special permit on January 29th of this year. I did provide a copy of that to you all. At the meeting on the 28th of January, several questions were raised about the height of the beach club. The new sheet A2.0 dated 2/10/2020 by GS Design Group does show the height of the proposed building. And I did my math wrong, but they provided what the height of the top of the cupola is. At the time that staff report was done, there were 2 additional letters. Now I believe there are 5. And I do recommend standard conditions be imposed, including a stormwater drainage review requirement.
Thank you very much. Anybody in the audience wishes to be heard? And I have the 5 letters, and I will read them in due time.
You want to do that first?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Bob Nickerson, Harwich Port. So I have
Give
a
us an address, Bob.
37 Bayview Road.
Thank you.
So, first, a couple of observations. I looked at all the past 2 meetings, the Board of Appeals, our meeting you had, and looked at the tapes again. So a couple of points. One is we've heard a number of times allowable seats is 650. That'll be referenced later. And then the new beach club, it says 4 beach clubs members only, no public use at the building. So, and then the next one was, and this is for a paraphrase, so I may not have it exactly right. WBC members normally reside within a 12-mile radius, so limited number that could actually be interested in joining. And I state that only because the reference was, we're not going to increase the volume, and so we're trying to look at that. And I'm trying to say, is that true? So here's the impact, some of them which I have said before, but I don't think they've been addressed, and you weren't asking them to address them, but I wanted to bring them up and put them on the record. Size and scope of the project, proposed project, is such that the buildings will dwarf the existing structure being replaced, and in fact approach a similar height and size of a condo unit. Why is the structure so large if the only use is for the beach club members and whom may use the structure for no more than 4 months per year? What else will this structure be used for? Are weddings and or receptions going to be held in the building? Next bullet. The proposed rooftop bar shows a floor elevation of 34 feet. Now this is 34 foot from 12 foot, right? Am I getting that right, engineers?
Yeah.
From the 12 foot, right? Not from water.
Just give them a chance to respond, if you would, please. Go ahead, sir.
You're asking the roof, top of this one right there?
No, I'm asking about the roof floor.
Yeah, the roof floor is 25. Yeah, it's 25 feet 5 inches from grade.
A grade is 12 foot up, right?
No.
What's grade?
The 12-foot is the base flood elevation, which is, at elevation 12 off the water.
Right, so we have 12 foot up, right?
Yep.
And then how far
If I
from
might,
that?
sir, address whatever you have to say to the chair, please, not to
Okay.
those folks.
So we have 12 foot up. How high from that point to the roof deck is it?
Can you answer that, sir?
24.5. No, sorry.
25.5.
No, he's asking from base flood elevation, how tall would it be? And you subtract approximately 6 feet. So it's 19,
Oh, okay.
19.5 from the 12-foot elevation.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
You're telling me it's 19.5 from,
Well,
Okay,
the
my point
building
is-
from
let-
grade is
let me-
25.5.
Chair, let me just say, my point is, what is the roof elevation versus the peak of the existing building? The way I see it, it's 2 foot 10 inches. Okay? Okay, I'm trying to get a dimensional size change, that's what I'm trying to make a point.
They're answering you to the best of their ability, I think.
So anyway, you look at the overlay, and in my opinion, it's, the roof deck is, and the roof deck meaning where people are standing for an outside bar is somewhere near the peak of the existing building. Okay, that's pretty high up. So anyway, I'll pass on that one. The next one I'm gonna pass on because you answered my question already about 12-foot floodplain and the 50-foot level, so you've answered that. Next question is, has a wind study been undertaken? What is the impact on the wind in the channel and the harbor by placement of a significantly larger structure on the site? Has this impacted the normal wind currents that flush the harbor? What impact has been considered on the biological resources in the harbor, shellfish and water quality? Note, if you plan to build a structure in a large city, a wind impact study on the effect of all existing buildings must be considered. Similarly, changes in building footprints and size on the site will change wind flow. What environmental analysis has been done to address the impact of plovers, terns, other threatened species, which I mentioned before? What consideration about water quality impact? Water quality studies, because again, the wind actually affects them. Why have the applicants repeatedly stated that they're allowed 650 seats at a time on the site when the application for common victualers, I don't know if I said that right, license indicates 25 seats? I have a copy of that in my, right here. So they have 25 on their requirement to get a license, but they keep telling us 650. If this project is just to support existing operations with no intent to increase the number of seats or number of beach club members, are you willing to agree to, as a condition of approval of the project, will you agree if they put this in the planning acceptance, and I'm suggesting to you that you state this so they can't go beyond that? That's what they've said over and over again. How can the size and scope of the project not be considered to have a detrimental effect if built as proposed? Noise, wind reduction, and the channel, impact on natural resources, visual impact to homeowners and Merkle Beach goers, neighborhood walkers, everybody. I stood at the end of Snow Inn Road. When you stand there and look out, you easily see the top of the existing building, this old building. That is now going to be almost twice as high. Okay? Alternatives. We encourage the WBC to review the scope of the project, reducing the new building size to be more realistic for the setting in the neighborhood. We are appreciative of the consideration in lowering the nitrogen levels through a reduction of fertilizers. We encourage consideration on the impact of neighbors who live nearby. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else in the audience wishes to be heard? Thank you, sir. Please give us your name and address so we can have it on the record.
Thank you, Chair. Peter Sullivan, 16 Colonial Way. I'm directly southwest of the project. I also belong to Stonehurst Yacht Club, which is a sailing club across the water. I want to reiterate, has the wind study been done? It's tough enough right now to get a sailboat out of that channel, and with the owner's boat there also, it's even tougher. And so you have little kids going out of there. Has that been established, of anything of that sort? I saw a view from west going east. Is there a view going east going west up toward Hyannis? Because I can see that there's going to be a great amount of blockage between the buildings and also going toward the actual where they do all the weddings. There's a follow-on with that also with regards to the noise. Is there any noise restrictions being put on this? Because being directly southwest, I hear the good bands and I hear the bad bands that are being played. And I know there is a moratorium, I mean, there's a time in the town, but a roof deck of that size with the amount of people up there, what is the town going to do about restricting music? I know that's an issue here in town itself. Now we're going to have it there, and being directly southwest, you're going to hear it all the way up to Brax. So I encourage the committee here to work with the organization to see if we can then put some restrictions on that, because again, if there's 650 people sitting there, they make a lot of noise on top of the weddings that will go on less than 1,000 feet away. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else who wishes to be heard? Yes, ma'am. Just be kind enough to identify yourself.
My name is Lucy Steer, and I own property at 59 Snow Inn Road. My biggest concern, Mr. Chair, is the diminishment of wind in the channel. I've known the Snow Inn property since 1951, and there were always tall buildings and short buildings on the property, changed over the years as the Thompsons built, added, tore down, et cetera, et cetera. But I believe it was when Fennel owned the property, there was what some people call a crow's nest put on top of the clam bar. That blocked a significant amount of wind coming into the channel. With this additional building on the outer part of the property, what I hope the committee will consider doing is a scientific study of what the daily knots in the channel are going to do over time, because I can tell you that the wind blowing in that channel has changed significantly down to sometimes 0 in a day. So I'm very concerned about the scientific impact for the entire community. The less wind in there could create decay of the ecosystem, could become very unpleasant for everyone in the town over time. So if a scientific study has not been done, I don't care about how much wind is blowing there. What I care about is what is the impact of the amount of wind in the channel going to do to the ecosystem over time. Because if you look at other channels along the southern coastline, if you look at Allen's Harbor and Bass River and Hyannis and Hyannisport and Osterville, and you go on down to Falmouth, those channels have a lot of, the wind can easily flow back and forth, east to west, north, south, easily. What I'm worried about for our channel is that it's really getting blocked. The wind's getting significantly blocked there. So I just wanted to raise that in front of the committee. Thank you.
I can't help but react. If I've sailed or motored down that channel once, I've sailed or motored down it 1,000 times. Okay, I've lived here for a long time, and I've owned a variety of boats. With all due respect, ma'am, and I'm not talking as an expert, but only my personal experience, I'm not so sure that what your description of that channel and the effect of this project is as relates to that channel. You and I can just disagree on that, okay?
Yeah. I just know that over time, sir, I've been here since 1951, and wind has significantly diminished in the channel. I don't know if this building is going to add to that or not. I'm not even talking as a sailor, as a yachtsman. I'm really talking as somebody who knows that when the wind is significantly diminished in the channel over time, it can affect the ecosystem. So that's my concern.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Anybody else who wishes to be heard? Okay, members of the board, shall we? Oh, I'm sorry, I have a couple of,
Mr. Chairman, one quick thing.
Go ahead.
With regard to the entertainment, that falls strictly under the Board of Selectmen.
Of course.
So,
I know
just
that.
so I know.
I wasn't gonna argue with anybody,
No,
but
no,
of course,
just-
I know how those are issued.
I know you know, but
Yeah.
other people may not. You have no role in the entertainment part of that.
And as we talk about that, it's interesting to me that the other yacht club on the other side, the sailing yacht club, we don't see anybody. And that's their,
That's not true.
I'm here from that yacht club as well.
okay? You want to be heard, sir?
All I could do, I'll be happy to, sir. Andrew Barrett, 112 Mile Street in Harwichport. I think can I just reiterate the concerns that are brought up by the other people who've been here tonight. would suggest that perhaps a wind study would be worthy of being conducted, and perhaps the developers would be serve the community well and everyone who is concerned about this project by conducting such a study and getting it back to the board for its further consideration. Because the wind study has many different impacts on the people who use the Witchmere Harbor for recreational purposes, and it may impact on the ecosystem. It might be worthwhile to institute such a study as to the impact on the southwest wind as it comes in. There are aesthetic views that are going to be diminished for all the neighbors, which is certainly a concern for everyone involved who lives near there and the yacht club members. But primarily, when you are building large edifices on that snow-in property that have been done over the years, it has not only diminished the views for those who recreate in that area, but has certainly diminished the southwest wind as it comes in. And there are certainly issues that could be affected. It could be affecting the ecosystem, as Ms. Steer said, and it certainly affects the recreational use of that waterway, which was created not just for fishing, professional fishing boats, but for recreational boat use as well. So I think it might behoove the board to consider asking the developers to commission a study into the effects of this rather large edifice and its effects on the southwest wind as it would impact on Witchmere Harbor. I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Anybody else wishes to be heard? Okay, I have a couple of, first I have comments on Witchmere Harbor Real Estate LLC expansion. Robert Nickerson, 37 Bayview Road, 15 Davis Lane, 617 Route 28, Main Street, Howardsport. Is Mr. Nickerson here?
He just made a presentation.
And you already spoke those, so I don't have to read them. Except that if it's all right with the board, we'll mark them as an exhibit and add them to the record.
Mr. Chair, I also have copies for these gentlemen, too.
Okay, thank you. The next I have is, dear Charlene, my name is Vin Helfrich. The letter is to Ms. Greenhouse. My name is Vin Helfrich, and I write to you today on behalf of myself and my wife Jean. We have owned this property at 31 Snow Inn Road for the last 25 years and have spent every summer there since. We write to you today to offer you our support for the Beach Grill renovation project that the Witchmere Harbor Beach Club has presented to the town for approval. Our property is located directly behind the north end of the north end of the main function building along the Witchmere Harbor Inlet. There are functions at the club every weekend from April through December. In the 25 years we have spent at our property, we have never had a single complaint about noise, traffic, or construction projects at the club. We have found that the owners and management of the Witchmere Harbor Beach Club go out of their way to be considerate of their neighbors and the community in general. We have seen many renovations and construction projects at the Beach Club over the years. We find that every project they do is the highest caliber and is tastefully designed to enhance the beauty of Witchmere Harbor and the surrounding community. We have had the opportunity to review the plans for the Beach Grill renovation project. As with everything the owners do, they have come up with a design that enhances the entire community and adds to the beauty of Nantucket Sound. This renovation will be a beautiful upgrade to an already amazing property. The owners, management, and the entire staff have been amazing neighbors. They are very considerate and very thoughtful of their neighbors and always have the best interests of the community at the forefront. We offer our total support for this project and ask that the town of Harwich act favorably on this project. Thank you for your consideration. Vin and Jean Helfrich, 31 Snow Inn Road. Next letter is, hi Charlene, my name is James Ahern. My family and I reside at 58 Snow Inn Road in Howardsport. I want to express my gratitude to the owners of Witchmere Harbor Club for creating not only a wonderful member experience, but also for what I believe is a jewel of the Cape in our town. They are doing a wonderful job there, and I have every confidence that renovating the club will only attract more positively to the town, its residences and businesses. I am unequivocally in favor of the proposed changes. Thank you, James P. Ahern, founder of Lucidus Partners, LLD. Looks like it might be from Mobile, Alabama, I'm not sure. Next, to whom it may concern, I own, along with my mother and sister, 35 Snow Inn Road. We have enjoyed use of the Witchmere Harbor Club for decades now as members and have nothing but praise. Recently reviewed the plans for the new additional pools and were blown away. Please let this letter serve as a notice of our full support for it as a welcome improvement in addition to the club and our area in general. It has been nothing but a pleasure to have owners that abut our property who constantly show pride of ownership and desire to keep improving their property and benefits all in the process. With warm regards, Greg Manucherian. Do the best I can with that. Roco Holdings of Pound Ridge, New York. Next, a letter, Thomas Cosmer, Lanier Cosmer, 1923 Davis Lane. Dear Charlene, as an addition to our prior correspondence, please share this letter with members of the Town Planning Board. Comments contained herein are focused solely on the height and use of the proposed beach grill and support the view that the Planning Board should direct the applicant to modify such plans to yield an outcome that honors all interested parties, which may have a real estate LLC, neighborhood homeowners, and all Harwich residents and visitors who use Myrtle Beach. Contradictions exist regarding the height of the proposed beach grill. January 22nd memo from Ms. Greenhalgh to Planning Board, Ray proposed beach grill. Roof deck elevation of 34 feet has been provided on the building plans. However, an overall height of the proposed building has not been provided. January 28th letter from Singer and Singer to the Planning Board. Quote, the reconstructed restaurant building will be a conforming 2 stories in height, 49 feet 10 inches to the top of the cupola, 36 feet to the top of the roof bar, and the vast majority of the structure is at 27 feet. January 28th meeting packet for Planning Board shows the elevated pool deck to be at 12.2 feet, GS design. Also shows the elevated first level floor to be at 18 feet, GS design. Also shows the elevated expansive roof deck floor to be 34 feet across, GS design, and also shows a roof structure above the roof deck bar and sitting area, but fails to provide elevation figures. My guess is approximately 45 feet plus or minus. How can the vast majority of the structure be at 27 feet, as noted by Singer and Singer, when elevations from GS design show the floor of the roof deck at 34 feet and the roof structure over the sizable bar and lounge sitting in an area of approximately 45 feet plus or minus? Brother.
If you
Wow.
miss this, let me know.
Pardon?
If you need miss this, let me know.
Okay. While we wait for the applicant to prepare new drawings showing the size and scale of the proposed beach grill, superimposed with the existing structure, the attached pictures will be helpful. And attached to this are some photos. The best I can do is just show them to anybody. You want to pick it up from there?
Sure, picture number 1 was taken recently from the back patio of 23 Davis Lane, showing the existing structure, a small 1-story building with 2 tiny windows facing Myrtle Beach. No elevated outdoor deck, no outdoor lounge, no open air bar or seating area. The existing structure appears to have an elevation of approximately 25 feet plus or minus. A similar exposure to this area is shared by many area homeowners. Picture number 2 shows the east and west elevations of the proposed beach grill, which will have a much larger footprint, be bigger and more impactful in every way. The west side of the proposed beach grill alone will have approximately 70 windows versus 2 in the current structure, will contain 2 stories with an elevated open-air roof deck, bar, and lounge with a height of 49 feet 10 inches at cupola, 34 feet at floor of roof deck, and approximately 45 feet at the roof above the top level bar and seating area. Hundreds of beach grill patrons eating, drinking, and socializing will be on full visual display while generating much noise during club hours, causing a disruption to neighbors and others using Myrtle Beach, just a few yards away. While the applicant seeks shelter in the notion that the overall project does not constitute a change of use, they ignore the fact that the proposed beach grill will bring with it a use that is radically different than what takes place in the existing structure today. Compare the two pictures and ponder the additional impacts that will come from a different structure used in a different manner. The beach grill will be a detriment to many, and it is myopic to believe otherwise. Further, almost all non-member events have historically been held in the northeast portion of the club property, harbor room, hydrangea room, ocean room, immediately adjacent to the channel and harbor, where disruption to others is minimized. This has been a thoughtful approach that has worked well for decades, in part because people don't live on their boats or at Stonehorse Yacht Club, and this area by design is meant to be busy with boat traffic. By contrast, the proposed beach grill is earmarked for the far southwest portion of the property, immediately adjacent to Merkle Beach, and a neighborhood that has been peaceful for hundreds of years, and meant to be peaceful. Noise from those eating, drinking, and partying, many on an open roof deck, will be disruptive to area residents and to beachgoers, especially when one considers how noise is amplified across open dune areas, with winds generally off the water towards those who live on Davis Lane, Snow Inn Road, and Bayview Road. Claims made by the applicant, January 28th Planning Board and January 29th Board of Appeals meetings. Bullet points here, no increase in capacity tied to those plans. Bullet point, we are content with the number of events held on the property, no increase in number of events planned, weddings, fundraisers, and special events. Bullet point, no expectation of increasing number of club members. Bullet point, not asking for any membership increases, citing limited draw across 12-mile radius from 02646. Bullet point, balance of club membership numbers carefully managed. Bullet point, no detriment to the neighborhood. Bullet point, occasionally we have outdoor music once or twice per week, 5 to 7 p.m. or 6 to 8 p.m. The planning board deserves answers to the following questions before ruling. Number one, applicant's claim of outdoor music once or twice per week for a few hours is misleading, as it fails to account for music played into the late evening at events held in indoor club spaces where windows, doors are opened or temporarily removed. We attend such events each year and witness how these indoor spaces are effectively transformed into open-air venues, including those indoor spaces that feature windows, doors, which can be opened or removed, such as the harbor room and hydrangea room. How often is music played on property? 2, how many weddings or non-member club events are held at the property each year? 3, what is the linear feet, length by width, of the footprint of the current building? 4, what is the linear feet, length by width, of the footprint of the proposed beach grill? 5, what is the building capacity, people of the existing structure across all levels? 6, what is the building capacity, meaning people of the proposed beach grill across all levels? 7, is the existing structure used to hold non-member events such as weddings? If so, how many? 8, will the proposed beach grill be used solely by club members, or will non-member events such as fundraisers, weddings, celebratory parties be held at the beach grill? If so, how many? 9, will music be played at the beach grill? If so, how often and on what levels? 10, will the windows of the proposed beach grill remain closed at all times? 11, with no increased use or demand anticipated, is it possible to build a beach grill that is bigger than the current structure but does not include an open-air roof deck with a bar and lounge?
The applicant has repeatedly stressed no increase of use of club property is planned, that the number of events held on club property will remain the same, that no increase in club membership is anticipated, and no increase in overall capacity is being requested. Why then is it necessary to expand drastically the beach grill? Not a modest expansion, but one that would yield a new structure that may be triple the overall size or more of what it will replace. At what point does an expansion become extreme and excessive? Does doubting the size qualify as excessive? Tripling. We believe a more balanced and appropriate solution is readily available, one that honors all parties. As such, we urge the planning board to require the applicant to modify plans in a way that minimize the impact to others. This could be accomplished by removing the roof deck bar from the beach grill and replacing it with a roof similar to what sits on the current structure. Other options exist. The growth aspirations of any business enterprise are important, but they should not be allowed to undermine the ability for residents and taxpayers to peacefully enjoy their homes, and for all Harwich residents and visitors to enjoy treasured public areas in and around Merkle Beach. especially when viable alternatives exist that can easily be achieved. Respectfully submitted, Tom and Louise Cosmer, 19 and 23 Davis Lane. And attached to that is a photograph and the sketch or drawing of the proposed. Finally, dear Charlene Greenhouse, this is a letter being written to oppose the outrageously large building being planned by the Wychmere Harbor Real Estate Group's application to the Harwich Town Planning Board. We are not abutters. However, we live at 17 Davis Lane in Harwichport, which is on the south side of Davis Lane and looks south toward Nantucket Sound. This proposed structure, which seems to be some 48 feet tall, having a roof deck for musical entertainment at a height of 34.6 feet, and a building that appears to be over 220 feet long, is simply a huge monstrosity. The outsized, imposing, and obtrusive structure is postponed adjacent to a public right-of-way, a conservation area managed historically by the Audubon Society during the piping plover breeding season, and the Myrtle Beach donated to the town for the enjoyment of Harwich citizens and renters. It is ironic that such an imposing structure would be contemplated when normal citizens are limited to a maximum of 30 feet. Further, than an open-air music venue at 34.6 feet would even be considered, given the potential for noise pollution issues that would disturb residents a great distance from the venue. The further irony is that countless long-term residents of Harwichport are being significantly inconvenienced and financially harmed and by numerous other music venues in Harwichport. The creation of a new and such large, imposing venue to add to the music noise problem seems, in our view, to be over the top and prudent. It appears to us that this plan, as presented, could be proactively and collaboratively negotiated to a structure that is more modest in size, has the music venue at a lower level, and facing the Wychmere Harbor Private Club pool, underline. Recreational areas and snack service building with an enclosed restaurant on a higher level of the building. It is very likely that such a negotiated plan will result in more modest building height of 34 to 35 feet. Lastly, this expansion will bring traffic and risk to pedestrians that are walking to Myrtle Beach. Very little can be done to mitigate the obvious risk to the welfare of residents and renters, and consequently another element of fiduciary responsibility brought into question. We have been Harwich homeowners that have actively vacationed in Harwichport for over 50 years and love the community. We respectfully request that you give our objections and requested collaborative negotiation for changes in the proposed plan serious consideration for the benefit of everyone concerned. Sincerely, Martha Christensen and Paul Christensen. I think that's everything, yes. Okay. Do you have anything else? Yes, go ahead.
If I may, although I'm not able to vote on this one, I did want to put a couple of statements out because I think they're missing from the conversation. Number one is that, and these are primarily aesthetic, design-oriented observations. The plan that I see here seems to fit directly in the stylistic tradition that goes back to the original property. So the shingle-style building that respects the original buildings that were there in the last quarter of the 19th century as it was evolved. And I think it's suitable and appropriate that the architects and the team is, keeping the idea of continuity of resort architecture in Harwich intact. I think that's an important thing. Number two, I think the size of the building and the height of the building is a bit of a straw man argument because we've had two buildings in Lower Cape area or the Mid Cape area. One of which, of course, is the Chatham Bars Inn, which is a facility that's a entirely public facility, which is probably 4 times the mass and surface area, built 106 years ago, and for which there has never been any complaint. I would also argue that the Belmont Hotel is probably 3 times the size of it, 6 stories tall at its height, this was not considered a monstrosity when it was built, or except when it was torn down. I think that the fact that the client or the architect team and the developers have chosen to stay within the parameters that are locally determined is, worthwhile, worth consideration. I mean, I believe that there probably is an interesting, case to be made for the wind study issue, but then again, the large building is moved at least, I'm saying maybe 120, 150 feet off the water area. So whatever, if these were urban areas, you'd only have a couple of dozen feet between structures or between surfaces. And this is, hundreds of feet, or at least 100 feet. So I'm not so sure whether or not I find that as persuasive. But again, it's been a few decades since I last tried to sail out of Witchmere Channel. Just some thoughts.
Thank you very much. Anybody else who wishes to be heard?
Should we have a seating plan for this new building? No, that's not part of ours?
Not really. I mean, they're gonna be dictated by food service, and also they're under a, Katie may have to help me with this. They're under a state permit for their septic, so the state is really what is dictating how many seats and patrons and all that they can have.
It also will be affected by the license that's issued by the Board of Selectmen.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, ma'am.
So that was my question. I just had two quick ones. Where does the 650 come, where does the 650 come from? Does that come from your state septic permit that allows the 625 or 650, whatever that number is? And then, two, what kind of an alcoholic license is it? Is it an innkeeper's pouring license, or is it, and will that cover that covers the whole property, I would assume?
Well, to answer your second question first, the liquor license covers the whole property. The first question, the 650 was a number that we worked on with you, well, the then boards, Planning Board and Board of Appeals, 10 plus years ago, and it was based in part on the wastewater treatment plant that Charlene was mentioning, also on parking. That was
Okay.
really how we were discussing it at that time, because the buildings existed.
Okay.
That's where they come from.
So as an innkeeper's license, is that year-round, or is it seasonal? Because I honestly don't know.
Seasonal
It's seasonal.
license.
Okay.
Issued by the Board of Selectmen.
And the ABCC, yes.
Of course, yeah. And the other thing I wanted to make sure that the record is clear is that there's really two structures here. You have the structures that are the beach club down on the beach, and then you have the, for lack of a better word, the club structure where they have functions and there's an outdoor clam bar.
The former clam
What
bar
was
building
the clam
property,
bar?
yep.
Yeah.
Plus the hotel, and there's another building, but yes,
That's right, the hotel is up the hill.
correct, next to the,
Yeah, yeah.
yes.
Okay. All right, what's the pleasure of the board? Is there anything else? Do you want to put it over? What do you want to do?
The other question I had was on, can we state where the music can be played, whether it can be just played inside, or can it be played on the outside deck?
I don't think we can do that. I think the Board of Selectmen would
That's who does that?
control that. Yeah, I haven't
For-
represented a client on a liquor license matter for a lot of years, but that's my memory.
So entertainment licenses come from the Board of Selectmen for 6 days a week, and from the state on Sundays. So those,
And they can say where it can be, whether it can be amplified. I mean, they have that jurisdiction.
Right.
but we don't have, just to follow up on the question on the site plan, there's no, I know we look at outdoor seating on everything for site plan review, so I'm a little surprised that we don't look at outdoor seating on this one. Is there a reason?
Well, the seating for
Yeah.
the beach club is gonna be the seating for the beach club. You know, whether it's on the patio up above, whether it's in the, you know, the main dining area, they can only have so many seats in there.
And right now, all the seats are outside down there. You know, it's all open air. This actually provides some, when it's inclement weather, you can be on the inside.
And just to make it clear, your license covers this whole structure down on the beach, plus the structure on the
Which license? The liquor
clam
license?
bar.
There's one license, if you're talking about liquor license
Yeah.
and entertainment licenses, they're site-wide. They're for the property.
So
All the buildings.
they include the building, the old sandbar.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Just to follow up, your liquor license would describe the whole premises as your alcoholic beverage serving area? I would think you would have separate,
It goes by, it mentions the buildings. It's
Okay.
been a while since I've looked
I
at
was
it.
gonna say, because I would think it would have to, because I still would think you'd be
Well, you have to
restricted.
have with a liquor license and an entertainment license, you have to have floor plans.
Right.
That go with them, showing
Right.
where the liquor's gonna be stored, where's it gonna be kept. I mean, I realize this is not your jurisdiction, and there are floor plans that show where all that is.
Right.
And so, yes, those are them. I believe, it's one license to my my remembrance, but it references the different
Okay,
parts.
that's what I was thinking, because I wouldn't think you would have had full site wide. I would have thought they would have had designated areas in open,
That's my
open areas
recollection.
that you wouldn't have open containers. So I just wanted to,
Yeah, and
To
for
clarify that.
entertainment licenses and liquor licenses or common vicular, it goes through the various department heads before it's issued. So the front office administration sends it to building, health, probably conservation in this case as well, to make sure that they're all where they're supposed to be.
In this case, we've been before all of them, in the sense that health's looked at, it's a state issue, but we've been to conservation, they've approved it, looking at all the environmental aspects. So they would be signing off, as Charlene said.
Okay. Anybody else? So,
Make a motion, we close the public hearing?
Nobody's asked, David,
Oh.
are you there?
if he had anything.
David, you want to talk?
No, I've been listening to all the, coming through loud and clear, and no questions.
For the people in attendance, with permission of the Board of Selectmen, we have one member who participates remotely, and that's who you just heard. Okay, anything else? Okay, what's your pleasure?
You had a motion.
I cut you off, I'm sorry, sir.
Oh, it's all right. Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor? And we need a roll call vote?
Arthur Rose, aye.
Joe McParland,
Dave
aye.
Harris, aye.
Joe McParland, aye.
I can't vote.
Can't vote.
Oh, Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
William Schultz, aye.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
Okay, and
Yeah.
need to, you want to read
Now
these?
I'll find them.
Page 5. That's where you're going.
So, I move that we adopt the following proposed findings of fact. One, that the property is located within the RH3 and RL zoning districts. The proposed changes of use and alterations to the site were approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals pursuant to Board of Appeals case number 2019-28. 3, the Conservation Commission approved the changes within conservation jurisdiction pursuant to Mass DEP SE 32-2383 and SE 32-2387. 4, the height of the proposed beach grill and the coastal bar within the height limitations of the zoning code. 5, building coverage limitations have not been exceeded, 15% is allowable, and 11.4 is proposed, which represents an increase from 10.2% building coverage. 6, amenity and site coverages have decreased slightly. 7, green space coverages have increased slightly. 8, the use as developed will not adversely affect the neighborhood. 9, the specific site is an appropriate location for such a use, structure, or condition. 10, there will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians. 11, adequate and appropriate facilities will be provided for the proper operation of the proposed use.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay, and all those in favor, we'll vote.
Arthur Rose, aye.
Dave Harris, aye.
Joe McParland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
William Schultz, aye.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
Okay, and now we do a vote.
So I move that we vote to approve with conditions PB 2019-27, Witchmere Harbor Real Estate LLC, to amend a site plan review special permit granted in case PB 2010-26 pursuant to the code of the town of Harwich, section 325-51, structure greater than 7,500 square feet. In chapter 400 for property located in the RH3 and RL zoning districts at 23 Snow Inn Road, map 8, parcel P2-12. The decision is based on the aforementioned findings of fact and the fact that the application meets all the necessary requirements for the granting of the special permit with the following conditions imposed.
Actually, there are no conditions for that building. that I
Okay.
can think of.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those
So
in...
can I just amend my motion to without conditions, please?
Certainly.
And Craig seconded? Alan did.
I do have a question before we vote,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman. Do we need to include as conditions in our approval the zoning boards, or is that their conditions are in their approval?
If you go to the next, which is the site plan, that is a
the
condition
site plan.
recommended.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, we'll have a roll call vote.
Arthur Rouse, aye.
Dave Harris, aye.
Joe McFarland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
William Stoltz, aye.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
Okay, and now we need to vote on the site plan review, right?
So I move that we approve with conditions case number PB 2019-27, Witchmere Harbor Real Estate LLC, to amend pursuant to the code of the town of Harwich, section 325-55, site plan review, in chapter 400, a site plan review special permit previously granted under PB 2010-26, to allow for improvements to the existing beach club, including replacing the existing restaurant pool equipment building, 2 swimming pools, the pool decking, and other site improvements with a new restaurant building, a small restroom and retail building, a pavilion expansion, 2 smaller swimming pools, and a new concrete pool deck and various beach amenities for the property located in the RH-3 and R-L zoning districts at 23 Snow Inn Road, map 8, parcel P2-12. The decision is based on the aforementioned findings of fact and the fact that the application meets the necessary requirements and criteria for approval pursuant to the code of the town of Harwich and the following conditions. A, all zoning board of appeals and conservation commission requirements shall be met. B, the proposed restaurant will require a new food service permit through the health department and shall include the review of the floor plans and finishes, which shall be required prior to the approval of a building permit application. Full compliance with the 2013 Federal Food Code is required. C, the new swimming pools fall under the jurisdiction of the health department and shall require a full plan review through both health and building departments, which shall also include full compliance with 105 CMR 435, minimum standards for swimming pools, the State Sanitary Code, Chapter 5. D, all signage shall comply with the sign code and building department requirements. E, all lighting shall comply with the lighting code requirements. F, all drainage and stormwater requirements, local, state, and federal, shall be met and approved by the Harwich Town Engineer prior to the commencement of construction operations. G, this decision shall be recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds. H, conformance with all review procedure requirements outlined pursuant to 400-18G inspection. Certificate of completion and as-built plans of the code of the town of Harwich shall be met.
A second?
Second.
And we'll have a roll call vote.
Arthur Rouse, aye.
Dave Harris, aye.
Joe McFarland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
William Stoltz, aye.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
I believe that completes it. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much for all your time. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, you will need to do each of these individually, these next 4
Read them.
individually.
Okay.
So you open one, hear it, open the next.
I got
hear
you.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
tells me after the first one, the next three will go quick.
All right, okay. All right, the next matter is PB, excuse me. PB 2020-03, Davenport Companies, applicant and prospective buyer, care of Philip O. Sholomidi, PLS, representative, estate of James G. Marceline as owner, seek approval of a use special permit with waivers for a two-family dwelling pursuant to the code of the Town of Howard's 325-13A to 51 and 51N, as set forth in MGL 40A9. Property located at 2 Celebration Way, map 81, parcel C1-1 in the RL district. So, Davenport Companies are the representative.
Good evening. Phil Sholomidi with Ryder and Wilcox. I'm here tonight with Christian Davenport, and we are seeking approval of a special permit that's required to construct a two-family dwelling on Lot 1 in Celebration Way. The subdivision might look familiar to you.
It's also up on the screen, Phil.
Yes, okay, great. It's located in the RR zone. It's part of a 4-lot subdivision that, again, was recently approved by the board. The additional requirements needed to satisfy the special permit have been met, and they are as follows. Number 1, Lot 4 contains an excess of 40,000 square feet. Number 2, the floor areas of the proposed dwelling, each unit exceeds 800 square feet. It actually contains 1,092 square feet in total. The units are connected with a roof. And number 4, each unit contains 2 off-street parking spaces. A compliant Title V septic system shall serve the two-family dwelling with a proposed capacity of 440 gallons per day. The environmental impact report that was a condition of the approval of the subdivision was withdrawn without prejudice, with the understanding that the subdivision total bedroom count would be less than or equal to 18, below the 2,000 gallon per day threshold. We have requested, as part of the special permit, a waiver requiring the affidavit by the owner stating that he or she will live in one of the units on a year-round basis. The Davenport companies propose to have all these units rented on a year-round basis, and that's why we were asking for that waiver. We feel the proposed two-family dwelling is an appropriate use for the residentially zoned neighborhood. Its use is not detrimental to the neighborhood and would not alter the character of the zoning district in which it exists. Also worth mentioning too is the proposed use would help fill a gap in year-round rental shortage, which is currently part of the town. We ask the board to grant the special permit as submitted. We're here tonight to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Okay. Members of the board?
Can we have Charlene's comments?
Sure, sorry. I'm doing that to you, Charlene, I apologize.
That's okay. Mary's there to remind you. As Phil mentioned, they are requesting a waiver from the requirement of the affidavit stating that he or she will live in the unit on a year-round basis. The health department, this was part of a 4-lot subdivision that was approved by the board during the regular scheduled meeting on August 19th. The approval was conditioned on the submittal of a favorable EIR as originally designed, 32 bedrooms. The EIR was not approved as presented. EIR was withdrawn without prejudice, and with the understanding that the subdivision would support no more than 18 bedrooms in total in order to be under its 2,000 gallons per day threshold for EIR requirements. The plans submitted for the planning board review include 18 bedrooms in total, and for this specific unit, 2 Celebration Way, there would be 4 bedrooms, 2 two-bedroom units. This allocation remains under the 2,000 gallons per day threshold and is acceptable to the Health Department. All properties will require compliant Title V septic systems and recorded deed restrictions reflecting the maximum number of bedrooms permitted. Fire, police, and highway had no concerns. Conservation had no concerns as it was not in their jurisdiction. The town engineer and I did review these plans and the application on February 7th, and based on that review, the following conditions are recommended. A, all stormwater runoff generated within the property shall be controlled and infiltrated on the property up to and including the 100-year storm event. No commencement of site work shall be conducted until stormwater design is reviewed and approved by the town engineer. And said lot must be released from the planning board covenant, Barnstable County Registry of Deeds, book 32-590, page 128, before any site work can commence. 2, pursuant to section 325-51N, the requirement criteria for issuing of special permit are as follows. The minimum lot size must be 40,000 square feet. This lot is 44,833. The floor area of each unit is a minimum of 800. Again, the floor area of each unit is approximately 1,090 square feet. A common roof line is required, and there is a common roof line. They have provided the 2 parking spaces per unit. As mentioned, there is a strong need for rental units within the town of Harwich. The requested waiver is reasonable, and standard conditions are recommended.
Okay. Anybody on the board have any questions? Sure?
How long has the common roof line been in place, Charlie?
Since the
Continuous.
beginning. I believe so.
Because we had a development by Davenport that has separate homes that are rentals.
If you're thinking of the one off Queen Anne Road, they're actually connected. It's the same.
The one over off of 137, next to the cemetery.
Those are single family.
Yeah, they're single families? I thought they
Single
were
family.
rentals.
They're rentals. They
Single
are,
family
but they're not
rentals.
a duplex like this.
Right,
They're on individual parcels.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
okay,
But these are the same as the ones off of Queen Anne Road
yeah.
on the way to
Correct.
the dump?
Correct. And Bog Lane. Just those recently as well.
Right. Anybody else on the board? Sir?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. There'll be no weekly or monthly rentals, correct?
No.
Will you require tenants to sign a 12-month lease, 6-month lease? Is there a minimum?
Minimum 1 year. Yes, 12 month.
12 months.
And we
Okay.
do all the background checks and all that.
Okay. And I didn't see in the package plans for the 3-bedroom unit?
We're not on that one yet,
Okay.
and there is a request or recommendation that they have to provide revised floor plans.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else on the board? Anybody in the audience wishes to be heard with regard to this matter? Seeing none, we can proceed to a board vote.
Going to move to close the public hearing.
Okay, we'll have a roll call.
Arthur Rose, aye.
Dave Harris, aye.
Duncan Berry, aye.
Joe McParland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Ellen Peterson, aye.
William Stoltz, aye.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
Okay,
So I move that we vote to adopt the following findings of fact. 1, the lot contains a minimum requirement of 40,000 square feet of upland. 2, each dwelling unit's floor area is greater than 800 square feet, minimum requirements. 3, a common roof connects the dwelling units. 4, the parcels provide sufficient access for 2 spaces for each unit. I'm assuming that means 2 parking spaces for each
Yes.
unit?
Yep.
5, the use as developed will not adversely affect the neighborhood. 6, the specific site is an appropriate location for such a use, structure, or condition. 7, there will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians.
second,
Second.
okay. And we'll have a roll call vote.
Arthur Rose, aye.
Wait.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Arthur's not eligible to vote as the alternate because we have 7 regular members.
Okay,
That's okay.
Dave Harris, aye.
Duncan Berry, aye.
Joe McFarland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
William Stoltz, aye.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
Okay.
So I move that we vote to approve with waiver, to approve the waiver from Article 2, Section 400-17A, Sub 1, Sub A, requiring a signed notarized affidavit by the owner stating that he or she will live in one of the units on a year-round basis.
Second.
Okay, and we'll have a roll call vote.
Duncan
Dave
Berry, aye.
Harris, aye.
We got them both.
Yep.
Joe McFarland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
William Stoltz, aye.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
On the use special permit, I move that we vote to approve with conditions a use special permit with waivers for PB 2020-04 Davenport Companies applicant and prospective buyer, the state of James G. Marceline, as owner. A use special permit with waivers for a two-family dwelling pursuant to the Code of the Town of Harwich, Section 325-13.A, Section 325-51, and 325-51N, for the property located at 6 Celebration Way, map 81, parcel C1-2, in the R-L district, based on the aforementioned findings of fact and the fact that the application meets the necessary requirements and criteria for approval, with the following conditions. 1, each unit shall have no more than 2 bedrooms per the Board of Health. 2, all stormwater runoff generated with the subject property shall be controlled and infiltrated on the subject property, up to and including the 100-year storm event. 3, no commencement of site work shall be conducted until stormwater design is reviewed and approved by the town engineer. 4, said lot must be released from the planning board covenant recorded at Barnstable County Registry of Deeds in Book 32590, page 128, before any site work can commence. 5, the special permit decision shall be recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds. And 6, any changes to the site plan shall be subject to further planning board review.
Second.
Second.
Okay, my understanding that you read 6 Celebration Way, and it should be 2 Celebration Way.
What line are we on here?
4th line down, motion to approve.
So it says 6 Celebration Way in the notes.
No, you're looking at it.
On
I think we're looking at 2.
my staff report, it says 2.
So am I in the wrong staff report?
You might be on
Maybe.
I may be on the wrong staff report.
No, it's not. No, I take it back.
It is 2 Celebration.
We all agree, but we need to have the mover of the motion accept.
So I'm just concerned that I read the wrong votes.
I think they're identical.
Yeah, they're identical.
If they're identical, I just want somebody to tell me that.
Street address. So if we were going to do a substitution,
One's for a 3-bedroom.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay?
Yeah, so I rescind 6 Celebration Way and state that it should be 2 Celebration Way and ask that Alan accept that amendment.
Accepted.
Okay.
Okay. And we need a second?
Second.
Alan seconded and approved that.
Okay. And we'll have a roll call vote.
Dave Harris, aye.
Duncan Berry, aye.
Joe McFarland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
William Stoltz, aye.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
Okay, that completes that matter, I believe. Make my way through my pile of papers and we'll move on to the next one.
I'll make sure I'm on the right one.
6. Right?
Agenda item 2C, Roman numeral 2C.
No, we just did 2C. No, we didn't.
No, we didn't.
No, you didn't.
We did B. Sorry. Okay.
2C is number 6.
Yep.
All right.
I had the wrong paperwork in front of me.
Okay, the next matter is PB 2020-204, Davenport Companies applicant and prospective buyer, care of Philip Shalomini, PLS, Representative State of James G. Masterline as owner seeks approval of a use special permit with waivers for a two-family dwelling pursuant to the code of the town of Howard, 325-13A and 51 and 51N, as set forth in Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A9, property located at 6 Celebration Way, Map 1, Parcel C1 and 2 in the RL District. We have a motion.
Mr. Chair, I think you said map 1, it's map 81.
I accept that amendment, except I just want to make sure where I see it. Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay,
Your presentation.
Okay, yes.
go ahead.
Yes, this is, again, the same, we are seeking the same approval of the same special permit, construction of a two-family dwelling. This is on lot number 2 of the 4-lot subdivision on Celebration Way. And again, the lot contains an excess of 40,000 square feet with 40,474 square feet. The floor areas of each unit contains greater than 800 square feet or 1,092 square feet. The units are connected with a roof, and each unit contains 2 off-street parking spaces. Again, as mentioned before, the proposed Title V system will be compliant with Board of Health requirements with a capacity of 440 gallons per day. And we have, again, requested a waiver that the owner shall not live in one of the units on a year-round basis as it is proposed to become rental units. We feel that it's appropriate use for the residentially zoned neighborhood. It's not detrimental to the neighborhood, its use, and it would not alter the character of the zoning district. And again, this should help to fulfill a shortage of rental units within the town.
Okay. Anybody on the board have any questions or comments from the applicant? Anybody in the audience have any questions or comments from the applicant? Okay.
I move that we vote to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, and we'll have a roll call.
Dave Harris, aye.
Duncan Berry, aye.
Joe McFarland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
William Stoltz, aye.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
So I move that we vote to adopt the following findings of fact. 1, the lot contains a minimum requirement of 40,000 square feet of upland. 2, the dwelling unit's floor area is greater than 800 square feet, minimum requirements. 3, a common roof connects the dwelling units. 4, the parcels provide sufficient access for 2 parking spaces for each unit. 5, the use as developed will not adversely affect the neighborhood. 6, the specific site is an appropriate location for such a use, structure, or condition. 7, there will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay, and a roll call vote.
Duncan Berry, aye.
Dave Harris, aye.
Joe McFarland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
William Stoltz, aye.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
So I move that we vote to approve the following waiver from Article 2, Section 400-17A, Sub 1, Sub A, requiring a signed and notarized affidavit by the owner stating that he or she will live in one of the units on a year-round basis.
Second.
Okay, and a roll call.
Duncan Berry, aye.
David Harris, aye.
Joe McFarland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
William Stoltz, aye.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
So on the use special permit, I move that we vote to approve with conditions a use special permit with waivers for PB 2020-04 Davenport Companies, applicant and prospective buyer, estate of James G. Marceline as owner. A use special permit with waivers for a 2-family dwelling pursuant to the Code of the Town of Harwich, Section 325-13A, 325-51, and 325-51N. For the property located at 6 Celebration Way, map 81, parcel C1-2, in the R-L district, based on the aforementioned findings of fact and the fact that the application meets the necessary requirements and criteria for approval,
Second.
with the following conditions.
Oops.
1, each unit,
The wrong one. Pardon
Each
me.
unit shall have no more than two bedrooms per the Board of Health. 2, all stormwater runoff generated with the subject property shall be controlled and infiltrated on the subject property up to and including the 100-year storm event. 3, no commencement of site work shall be conducted until stormwater design is reviewed and approved by the town engineer. 4, said lot must be released from the planning board covenant recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds in Book 32590, page 128, before any site work can commence. 5, the special permit decision shall be recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds. And 6, any changes to the plan shall be subject to further planning board review.
Okay,
Now you can second.
Now I can second. Second.
okay. And those in favor?
Duncan Berry, aye.
Dave Harris, aye.
Joe McFarland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
William Stoltz, aye.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
That completes it, that one.
That one.
Okay, next matter is PB 202005, dealing with 14 Celebration Way, if you
You
will.
have to read the whole thing, Joe.
Oh, gotta read the whole thing, I'm told. Applicant and prospective buyer, care of Philip O. Shawmady, PLS, representative, estate of James G. Marceline as owners, seeks approval of a use special permit with waivers for a two-family dwelling pursuant to the code of the town of Harwich, 325-13A-51 and 51N, as set forth in Mass General Laws, Chapter 48-9, property located at 14 Celebration Way, Map 1, parcel C14-1-4, in the RL District.
It's map 81 again, just like the last one. Should say map 81.
Map 81. Okay. Anybody wishes to be heard?
I had a quick question about the parking on this one, because this looks like there's a little variation with this Y-shaped access to the lot.
Yes, I'm sorry.
You're covering.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry, your question.
My question is, being a neophyte here, this seems like it's kind of a constrained arrangement with 90-degree or near 90-degree access and a fork and all that kind of stuff. Negotiating this, does this conform to the
It
code?
does.
Okay, all right, that's all.
Okay, anybody on the board have any questions or comments? Okay, anybody in attendance? Okay,
How about that we move to close the public hearing? Move that we vote to close the public hearing. It's been a long day.
okay, and we need a roll call vote.
Duncan Berry, aye.
Dave Harris, aye.
Joe McFarland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
William Stoltz, aye.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
I move that we vote to adopt the following proposed findings of fact. 1, the lot contains a minimum requirement of 40,000 square feet of upland. 2, each dwelling unit's floor area is greater than the 800 square foot minimum requirement. 3, a common roof connects the dwelling units. 4, the parcels provide sufficient access for 2 parking spaces for each unit. 5, the use as developed will not adversely affect the neighborhood. 6, the specific site is an appropriate location for such a use, structure, or condition. 7, there will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Duncan Berry, aye.
Dave Harris, aye.
Joe McFarland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
William Stoltz, aye.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
I move that we vote to approve the waiver from Article 2, Section 400-17A, Sub 1, Sub A, requiring a signed and notarized affidavit by the owner stating that he or she will live in one of the units on a year-round basis.
And we'll have a roll call vote.
Who seconded?
Second.
Duncan Berry, aye.
Dave Harris, aye.
Joe McFarland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
William Stoltz, aye.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
And on the use special permit, I move that we vote to approve with conditions a use special permit with waivers for PB 2020-05, Davenport Company's applicant and prospective buyer, estate of James G. Marceline as owner, a use special permit with waivers for a two-family dwelling pursuant to the Code of the Town of Harwich, Section 325-13A, 325-51, and 325-51N for the property located at 14 Celebration Way, map 81, parcel C1-4 in the R-L district. Based on the aforementioned findings of fact and the fact that the application meets the necessary requirements and criteria for approval with the following conditions. 1, each unit shall have no more than 2 bedrooms per the Board of Health. 2, all stormwater runoff generated with the subject property shall be controlled and infiltrated on the subject property up to and including the 100-year storm event. 3, no commencement of site work shall be conducted until stormwater design is reviewed and approved by the town engineer. 4, said lot must be released from the planning board covenant recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds, Book 32590, page 128, before any site work can commence. 5, the special permit decision shall be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. And 6, any changes to the site plan shall be subject to further planning board approval.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Roddenberry, aye.
Dave Harris, aye.
Joe McParland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
Lance Stoltz, aye.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
Thank you.
One more.
And we have a last one. PB 2020-06. Applicant and prospective buyer, care of Philip O. Shalamini, PLS. Representative, the state of James G. Marceline, as owners, seek approval of a use special permit with waivers for a two-family dwelling pursuant to the Code of Town of Harwich, 325-13A, 51, and 51N, as set forth in Mass General Laws, Chapter 48-9. Properties located at 10 Celebration Way, map 81, parcel C13 in the RL district. Okay. You ready?
We need a presentation.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
I already heard a couple of them, so I figure I'm gonna hear the same thing, but.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. Lot 4 contains in excess of 40,000 square feet. Is one of the additional requirements needed to satisfy the special permit. The floor areas of each unit exceeds 800 square feet, again, 1,092 square feet. The units are connected with a roof, and each unit contains 2 off-street parking spaces. The proposed plan for the Board of Health will have a design compliant with Title V with a total gallon per day of 440. We feel that this two-family dwelling is appropriate for the use in this residentially zoned subdivision. Its use is not detrimental to the neighborhood and would not alter the character of the zoning district. And again, there's a need for rental housing in Harwich, and we feel that this is a positive step in that direction.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, sorry.
is this going to be or is it a private road or town-accepted road?
It's a private way.
It's a private way.
The town has a moratorium in accepting private roads, so
Okay.
it will
So-
remain a private road.
Snow clearance is not an issue for us then?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
Well,
Or sewerage or.
if it's built to the proper standard, the town will plow the road. Town does plow private roads.
Okay. The reason I ask, I know in previous cases, we've had conversations or discussions about in cul-de-sacs where a place for them to put it and not block driveways and that type of thing, so.
Where to put the snow?
Yes, correct.
Highway did review this and had no concerns.
Okay.
Okay?
And Charlene, I mentioned at the wrong moment previously about the plan for 3 bedrooms. This is the plan for the 3.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman, the Board of Health has restricted this to 6 bedrooms, 2 3-bedroom units. We will need a floor plan, so that is a recommended condition of approval for this particular.
Yes, and we have
Our intention will be to build it as a 4-bedroom on day one, but have the ability to expand to a 3 if the market changes. If that makes sense, just like we did on the other ones. All the other projects are 4-bedroom with the ability to expand. So this is what we would build, the floor plan you have is what we would build, intend to build, and then have the ability to expand to the 6-bedroom. Rental market changes.
Okay. Can I, just a follow-up
Please,
question?
sure,
Where
sure.
would that other bedroom be?
Upstairs. So these are essentially a ranch. So there's a staircase going upstairs. Right now, there's nothing upstairs. We don't put there's no door at the bottom. It's sheetrocked over at the base of the stairs.
Okay.
So that would be opened up in the 3rd bedroom.
Because all I saw was down, so that's why I didn't, okay.
Wait a minute, that was on, the 2-bedroom was on lot 4. It was lot 3.
If they're only gonna do 2 bedrooms now, then that's fine. They'll still need to do a deed restriction with the Board of Health.
Yeah, so currently, they plan to just do 2 bedrooms.
Right.
But the additional bedroom was shown on the previous lot, according to the site plan that was done by Bennett and Riley.
No, it does say 3 bedrooms, but we don't have a floor plan showing 3 bedrooms.
Yes, not on the lot that we're reviewing now.
I'm
Confused.
I'm not following.
You don't have any 3-bedroom.
Right.
The site plan shows proposed total 6 bedrooms
Right,
on lot number 3.
right.
Or we just reviewed lot number 4.
No, you're on lot number 3 now.
Okay, so we took them out of sequence.
That's how they got
Right.
submitted to the
My
town
mistake,
clerk.
sorry.
Yeah,
We're on,
Because
just for numbers'
we're on
sake,
10
we're on
celebration.
10 Celebration.
10 Celebration Way.
I see.
Yeah.
My mistake, sorry.
Okay.
so,
You have anything else you want to add before we get to you?
No, thank you.
Okay.
did I hear correctly that all of these are gonna be built as 4-bedroom units now?
That's correct.
With the ability to expand, and they would all expand, the 3rd bedroom would be up on
That's
the
correct.
2nd floor, I assume. Would they have to would you have to come back before
No.
the planning? Is that the building department?
It would have to go through Board of Health and the Building Department, but it would not need to come back here because it's still restricted to a 3-bedroom. If they decided to only do 2, that's fine, but it still would be 3 bedrooms allowable.
But the other lots would stay 2-bedroom.
Those have to stay 2 bedrooms.
Right, okay.
Mary?
And,
Sorry, Craig, you can finish.
Go ahead.
you had previously,
No,
be it. I was looking for, we didn't have in our packet a full view of the street itself, from headwaters to cul-de-sac.
no.
Kind of had little chunks, but I thought I saw one earlier. Because I was curious, but we don't have the plot or the outline for the buildings. I was just curious if the buildings are all gonna be on the same plane, if you will?
Oh,
or are
you mean
they
relative to each other?
relative to each other and relative to the new street Celebration Way?
I have a picture of that.
So they're all,
Actually, it doesn't
Till the cul-de-sac.
matter.
okay,
Okay, anybody else?
thank you.
Mary?
Can I just clarify, you said they're essentially ranches, but it really looks more like a cape, right? With the, so that,
Correct.
the,
That's to
so
make
the
it look-
flight of stairs would be right behind the front door.
Correct.
And instead of having the flight of stairs there, you're gonna have it sheetrocked.
That's
If you
correct.
decide to open it up, you'll cut it open, you'll put in this flight of stairs, and then you have your interior space already there. You wouldn't have to
That's
really
correct.
do anything, you'd just open it up and do your interior work and get your permit, right? Okay. I was just having a hard time figuring out where the stairs were gonna be.
Go ahead.
so.
Again, it's just for the one lot,
That's correct.
Number 10,
lot 3.
lot 3,
Okay,
that was number 10.
anybody else? Anybody in the audience wishes to be heard? Seeing none?
And I move that we vote to close the public hearing.
Roll call.
Huckleberry, aye.
Tom McFarland, aye.
Dave Harris, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
William Stoltz, aye.
Greg Chadwick, aye.
Go ahead.
So I move that we vote to adopt the following findings of fact. 1, the lot contains a minimum requirement of 40,000 square feet of upland. 2, each dwelling unit's floor area is greater than the 800 square foot minimum requirement. 3, a common roof connects the dwelling units. 4, the parcels provide sufficient access for two parking spaces for each unit. 5, the use as developed will not adversely affect the neighborhood. 6, the specific site is an appropriate location for such a use, structure, or condition. And 7, there will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians.
Second? Comment?
Second?
Okay. And roll call vote?
Duncan Berry, aye.
Dave Harris, aye.
Joe McFarland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
William Stoltz, aye.
Greg Chadwick, aye.
So I move that we vote to adopt the following waiver from Article 2, Section 400-17A, Sub 1, Sub A, requiring a signed and notarized affidavit by the owner stating that he or she will live in one of the units on a year-round basis.
Second.
Okay, and
Duncan Berry, aye.
Dave Harris, aye.
Joe McFarland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
William Stoltz, aye.
Greg Chadwick, aye.
Then on the use special permit, I move that we vote to approve with conditions a use special permit with waivers for PB 2020-06, Davenport Company's applicant and prospective buyer, estate of James G. Marceline as owner, a use special permit with waivers for a two-family dwelling pursuant to the Code of the Town of Harwich, Section 325-13A, Section 325-51, and Section 325-51N, for the property located at 10 Celebration Way, map 81, parcel C1-3, in the R-L district, based on the aforementioned findings of fact and the fact that the application meets the necessary requirements and criteria for approval, with the following conditions. 1, each unit shall have no more than 3 bedrooms per the Board of Health. 2, revised building plans representing 3 bedrooms per unit shall be filed with the planning board and town clerk prior to the issuance of a building permit, if you so choose to build the 3 bedrooms. 3, all stormwater runoff generated with the subject property shall be controlled and infiltrated on the subject property up to and including the 100-year storm event. No commencement of site work shall be, that's number 4, is no commencement of site work shall be conducted until stormwater design is reviewed and approved by the town engineer. 5, said lot must be released from the planning board covenant recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds in Book 32590, page 128, before any site work can commence. 6, the special permit decision shall be recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds. And 7, any changes to the plan shall be subject to further planning board review.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Duncan Berry, aye.
Dave Harris, aye.
Joe McFarland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
William Stoltz, aye.
Greg Chadwick, aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks. I knew we'd get through it. By the way, members of the board, we should have on the record that we have a representative of the fire department here this evening and in attendance. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
We didn't need you, but I'm glad you did. Now the boss will know you were here. Okay, folks, we have a zoning amendment that we have to deal with.
Open the public hearing.
Okay, do we have a motion
You can
to,
open the public hearing first. It's a full public hearing.
okay, so I should read this?
Yep.
In accordance with the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Paragraph 5, the Harwich Planning Board holds a public hearing on Tuesday, February 25th, 2020, not earlier than 6:30 p.m. in the Don B. Griffin Room, Harwich Town Hall, 732 Main Street, Harwich, to consider an amendment to the Harwich zoning code as follows. To see if the town will vote to amend, the article is, to see if the town will vote to amend the code of the town of Harwich zoning by deleting the definition of essential services within 325-2 definitions and by deleting within 325-13, Table 1, Paragraph 2, public and quasi-public use. Item 3, essential services facility utilities. Okay, Charlie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as the board may recall, on January 14th, 2020, the board voted unanimously to send the proposed zoning amendment relative to the removal of essential services to Board of Selectmen to begin the public hearing process. On January 21st, 2020, the Board of Selectmen voted to refer the proposed zoning amendment back to the Planning Board. And the legal notices for this amendment were sent to the Cape Cod Chronicle on January 30th for publication in the February 6th and February 13th editions of that newspaper. On February 5th, 2020, the required notice and copies of the full text involved was posted on the Planning Board's website, and copies were made available at the town clerk and community development offices. A copy of said posting is attached. Additionally, the legal notice was posted with the town clerk. On the 5th of February, the abutting towns were also notified. That includes Dennis, Brewster, Chatham, Orleans, the Cape Cod Commission, and Mass Department of Housing and Community Development were notified via regular mail about the pending amendments. The public hearing is scheduled for today. The process for the public hearing is to open the hearing. The proposal should be explained. Basically, the existing definition of municipal use and that of essential services are in conflict with one another. Essential services lists a variety of municipal uses that in the use table, which actually I have the use table here, essential services requires a special permit across the board in all zoning districts. Municipal uses are permitted by right in all zoning districts. At the recommendation of town council, and based on the need for some sewer pumping stations to have needed to go to the zoning board of appeals, which just added another whole step, they did recommend that we just outright eliminate the definition of essential services, and that is what the board did decide to do. The hearing must allow for public comments, and the board should discuss and deliberate. If the board is ready to close the public hearing, please do so. Otherwise, the hearing should be continued. And I have, if the hearing is closed, the board must then vote on a recommendation to the town meeting. This vote does not need to occur on the same night as the public hearing, but the board must decide when it will take the vote up at a future meeting. A positive motion is also preferable, and I have provided you with a draft motion.
Okay. Anybody in the audience who wishes to be heard on this matter? Anybody on the board? Okay, can we get a motion to close?
Couple questions. First of all, what are the cons of striking of the essential services language? We know what the pros are. The pros have to do with the potential blockage of permitting sewer pumping stations, right? What are the cons?
That's why we have a planning director.
Thank you.
I honestly don't know of any. Municipal uses have to go through site plan review. So that's not a con, that's just something that still needs to happen. Public utilities fall under different provisions of Mass General Law. So like all the gas work, according to the existing essential services definition, that should have come to this board for site plan approval. Well, that's unheard of in normal places. Any work done in a road, town road, has to be approved by the Board of Selectmen as the overseer of the town roads. If there's a new electric line that needs to either be put, a new pole or new line, that goes through the Board of Selectmen. So there is a vetting that takes place. I'm not aware of any cons. There may be some. I just can't think of them.
Because I don't understand if this is the case, how it ever got planted in the
Yeah, I don't
code to
know.
begin with.
I honestly didn't go back to find out.
Okay, yeah, that was just kind of
And nobody on this board is old enough to remember. Okay, anybody else have any questions or comments?
Just to follow up on Charlene's comment, I think all of those things have to go to the Board of Selectmen because they're rights of way.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
using the right of, the public
Exactly.
right of way. So that's why there are poll hearings and permits that come through the Board of Selectmen.
Exactly.
I think we decided as a board when we voted to recommend this to the Board of Selectmen with a request to recommend it back, I think we talked about it and decided we didn't think there were any cons and it was a benefit to get rid of a discrepancy or a conflict between both definitions, so, just as a little background.
Anybody else? Anybody in the audience wishes to be heard? Okay? Move to close.
I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
And a roll call.
Arthur Rose, aye.
Duncan aye.
Joe McFarland, aye.
Dave Harris, aye.
Alan Peters, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I don't know what my motion is.
That's right.
So I move that we
Wait,
vote.
wait,
Hold
wait.
on.
Oh,
We need a
You have
vote.
to-
You're still on the closing of
Closing
the public
public
hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
your name.
Yes or no?
Oh, me,
Just
Mary
say aye.
Maslowski, aye. I skipped over myself,
Al
huh?
Peterson, aye.
William Stokes, aye.
Sorry.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
Okay, now we're ready to move.
Dave
Sorry,
Harris,
Sorry about that.
And Dave said aye.
So I move that we vote to approve the proposed zoning amendment and recommend it to the town meeting.
Second.
Okay, and a roll call vote.
Arthur Rose, aye.
Duncan aye.
Dave Harris, aye.
Joe McFarland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Al Peterson, aye.
Stokes, aye.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
Okay. I think that takes care of that matter. And finally, Mr. Crowell, you knew we'd get to you.
No doubt. I love the repetition on the 4 in a row.
Oh, God.
So did we.
There must be a better way.
No, especially when we read
Yeah,
from the wrong
ditto.
paper.
Ditto. Is that a legal term?
Yes.
Well recognized. Or res judicata is the legal term.
Hakuna
They
Matata.
already decided that, so I don't have to decide it again.
That Latin.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you need to read the notice?
It's not a public hearing.
It's
I
not a
don't-
public
I don't
hearing,
think
so we
is it?
don't need that.
No, it's a public meeting, so you can just
Okay.
say this is,
All right, I'm Attorney Bill Kroll from Harwichport, and I have Dan Croto from Moran Engineering seated with me, and we're representing Kirsten Meyer, trustee, who is the owner of the property in question at 515 Route 28 in Harwichport. So we're seeking a waiver of site plan review for a minor addition to the property at that site. The addition is shown on the plans that we submitted. It's basically 8.5 by 10.7 for the addition to create a very small office area with a bathroom. And it's really also a wrapping station for the retail sales shop, that they would wrap gifts there. There's also a shed on the site that shows on the plan, and the petitioner did obtain a building permit for that shed prior to its construction. The shed is for storage of inventory for the retail shop. Mr. Croto has submitted a letter dated January 27th, indicating that the site has 8 parking spaces and, according to the calculations, would not need any more spaces. The stairs that are to be constructed and are partially constructed now are to make the property safer for insurance purposes, and they'd basically be in the same location on the same landing pad as the existing stairs. But they're too steep. If you have an older couple that wants to use the residential apartment upstairs, the old stairs were too steep.
and needed renovating. The petitioner has already been to the Historical Commission and obtained approval from the Historical Commission, and then filed for the building permit. And Evershop, Ms. Greenhouse said, you need to either have site plan review or have waiver of site plan review. So we're here this evening under 325, Section 55, arguing that this addition would not substantially change the relationship of the structure to the site or to the abutting properties and structures, and ask that you waive site plan review on that basis. Thank you.
Members of the board.
Oh, one other thing, Mr. Chairman. Very important to our client that she be able to open the shop by April 15th. So the vote this evening is very important to her, because they did have a shop down on, it's known as the Gray House, and it was at the corner of Route 28 and Bank Street, where they rented, and now they, she and the family wanted to own. So they bought this property over the fall and winter, and have made proposed this small addition. And she came to me, and she's been a regular client, and she said, I'd like to be closer to that back lot line. And I said, it's not gonna work. You're not gonna get a variance from the Board of Appeals. You're going to be more than 20 feet. And they wanted to have a bigger addition and closer to the back lot line. I said, no, push it so it's more than 20 feet, so it's conforming to setbacks, so we don't have to go to the Board of Appeals. And we're hoping that you can see fit to waive site plan review this evening.
Okay. Charlene?
Thank you. The health department, the septic system was installed in 2000 with a design flow of 462 gallons per day. The system passed inspection in 2018. The system was, has sufficient flow for the proposed use, and a professional engineer has already relocated the septic system reserve area to an acceptable new location. As the plan is proposed, the health department has no concerns. The conservation had no concerns, as it's not in their jurisdiction. Just a general note that the town engineer and I reviewed this plan together. We have absolutely no concerns or issues with the request.
Counselor, I have a question. The building on the back of the lot that has a fairly good-sized window in the front of it and has some kind of a curtain across that window, what's that building used for?
That's
If
a
you know.
separate person.
In the back of the lot.
On the back of the lot.
The new shed, does that be the new storage?
Or is it the property at 44 Air Lane?
No, no, I think it's this.
Does it show on the plan, Mr. Chairman? No. I don't think it's on our lot.
I think it's
Okay.
44 Air Lane.
Okay, all right, thank you. And I'm wrong. Anybody else have any questions or comments on the board? Anybody in the audience who wishes to be heard or has any questions or comments about this application? Okay?
I move that we vote to adopt the following findings of fact. One, the parcel is in the C-V zoning district and the V-C overlay district. Two, that the application does not substantially change the relationship of the structure to the site and to abutting properties and structures. Three, the existing site is suitable for the proposed use. Four, there is a negligible increase in retail space. Five, the proposed office space will be utilized by the existing retail use. Six, the existing building is non-conforming and the new building will conform to setback requirements.
Okay. And we have a roll call vote?
Dave Harris, aye.
Duncan Berry, aye.
Joe McFarland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Ellen Peterson, aye.
William Stoltz, aye.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
And I move that we vote to approve the waiver of site plan for case PB 2020-07, Kristen Meyer, trustee, Gray House Property Management Trust as owner, for waiver of site plan review pursuant to the Code of the Town of Harwich, Section 325-55F, to construct a first-floor addition, a 12-foot by 14-foot shed for commercial storage, new first-floor access, steps and landing, along with improvements to the second-floor steps and landing for property located at 515 Route 28, map 14, parcel Q 11-1 in the C-V and V-C overlay zoning districts. The decision is based on the aforementioned findings of fact and the fact that the proposal does not substantially change the relationship of the structure to the site or to abutting properties and structures, and the application meets the necessary requirements and criteria for approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a roll call vote.
Duncan Berry, aye.
Dave Harris, aye.
Joe McFarland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
William Schultz, aye.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
I think that completes that matter.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your
Thank you.
attention and your time.
Okay. Charlene,
Yes, sir.
can you comment on, for us on this proposed partial lot release?
Actually, Mr. Smith is here.
Okay. Just tell us who you are and your address.
Hi, Mark Smith. My home address or the address for the, Arthur's Way, Harwich, Mass.
He's the developer and the representative.
Okay. And you want to tell us what you want?
Yep, here to ask for a couple of lots to be released, knowing that there are still a couple of lots left in to the planning board to release later on before we complete the subdivision.
And which lots? I think I know, but I'm going to ask you to tell us.
We're requesting the release of lots 6 and 7.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Can we have Charlene's comments?
Sure.
In April of 2018, the planning board did release lots 2 and 3, and I made this little chart up here on the screen. At that time, the town engineer determined that the remaining work to be completed totaled approximately $176,000. With a 50% contingency, the amount is just over $220,000. 2 additional lots, lots 4 and 5, were released in March of 19. The town engineer and I did review this request, and we concur that the remaining 2 lots, 1 and 8, 1 fronts on Route 39, 8 is a very back lot, which would still be held under covenant, are more than adequate protection for the remaining, covenant. Staff recommends the partial release of covenant lots 6 and 7 of the Arthur's Way subdivision, PB 2015-12.
Okay. Anybody on the board have any questions, comments? Anybody in the audience have any questions or comments? Okay.
I move that we vote to approve the partial release of covenant for lots 6 and 7 of the Arthur's Way subdivision, which was planning board file PB 2015-12.
Second.
And a roll call vote?
Duncan Berry, aye.
Dave Harris, aye.
Joe McFarland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
William Schultz, aye.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
And I have 2 copies that I'd ask you to sign on the lines right under planning board signatures. We ask you to do 2 in case one gets misplaced. We have an original. We do have to get that notarized. So you can either pick it up tomorrow, or we can mail it to you, whatever.
We'll contact you to pick it up.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right.
Mail scares me.
That's in part what we also do too.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe.
Get you everything once you're done. I can, you don't have to. And we do have a blue over there, Ben, is for the site plan.
Good to know. Thank you.
getting that signed. We do have the Harwich Zoning Board of Appeals for their public hearing on the 26th. Looks like they've got 3, 6, nine cases, all continued matters, and addresses that should not be surprises to this board.
Nope. Always.
Okay, I don't think, other than that.
Move that we accept it and place it on file.
Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Dave Harris, aye.
Duncan Berry, aye.
Joe McFarland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
William Stoltz, aye.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
You have 2 sets of minutes.
I move that we vote to approve the minutes for Planning Board meeting January 28th, 2020, and the minutes of Planning Board meeting from February 11th, 2020.
Okay, do we have a second?
I have a question. As amended, do we have to?
No, they got sent out to you.
Oh, okay, cool. Second.
Thank you very much. A roll call.
Duncan Berry, aye.
Dave Harris, aye.
Joe McFarland, aye.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Alan Peterson, aye.
William Stoltz, aye.
Craig Chadwick, aye.
And actually, you can vote on these.
Too late.
He's offended.
Okay, any old business?
I'm glad I missed the January 28th meeting. My goodness, that looks like a 5-hour stem winder.
It was interesting.
That was a long
Briefings and reports. Anybody have?
I have a question of Charlene.
Go ahead.
If I have the right acronym, the MVP meeting that was held, and I think there was an open meeting or something scheduled for near the end of this month. Am I
No, we
remembering?
don't, it's not scheduled yet. The MVP was the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Plan Workshop, and we had 40-plus attendants, which was really, really great. We had quite a cross-section, and I know Craig really wanted to go, but it was to the point where we're like ready to bust out of the seams. So we did hold that workshop. We are expecting a draft report from our consultant sometime this next month, and we will be doing a public presentation on the results of that sometime in April. We wanted to figure it out so that it was after the budget season and warrant preparation and before town meeting, so we figured April was a good choice.
Go ahead.
Question regarding meeting with Sarah Korjeff yesterday.
I had to stay home with my husband yesterday. I'm actually meeting with them on Thursday regarding the DCPC. I have a spreadsheet of all the property owners. I also have an email list of about 40 folks who have expressed interest in the past, and we're gonna get going on the DCPC, having meetings and discussions. And I'm gonna ask on behalf if the board would have any issue with Duncan actually participating in those meetings, in part because he is a member of the planning board, but he's also a resident, and is one of the property owners in that. So it would be good to have, and he can report back as well as I can to the board, on those initial meetings. I mean, it's up to the board. He really does need some kind of, okay. He can attend as himself, a property owner, but I think it would be, nice and good to have the board express whether you do or don't have an issue with him attending, so he can be a little vocal if he wants.
This is Dave Harris. I have no issue with that at all. In fact, I think it's a great idea.
I'll second that.
I don't think it needs a motion. I think just we're okay. I think
And
Mary's.
who are you saying would be in attendance?
I'm actually gonna run those meetings. I'm gonna be the facilitator for those meetings,
Okay.
probably along with Sarah Korjeff from the Cape Cod Commission. These are information gathering sessions to see what folks in that area want, and ironically, well, a lot of folks in that area don't actually live here, which I found really interesting, but
They own like summer houses or something.
summer houses or, commercial property. Number of folks live in Brewster, you know, several off Cape. But, so I'm gonna facilitate those, get information, see what people like, what they don't like, call up some draft bylaws, you know, share them with you guys, feed it through them to see if they're good with them, and eventually they'll come back to you for the formal process. I won't be here then, but for the formal process.
I have go ahead, sorry.
I'm concerned about us putting Duncan in a position where he's splitting his masters. I mean, he should, as a member of the neighborhood, be able to speak on his own behalf, regardless of what this board, regardless of representing the board. So I'm just concerned that he's gonna put himself, by doing both, by being our person, that he's gonna infringe on himself being able to comment on his own
Prejudices.
personal,
Okay, that makes sense.
his own personal interest. Because I think that puts him in a natural potential conflict, because, I mean, it is potential that these rules and regulations are gonna have financial effects on some of the members, maybe for the good and maybe for the detriment. So I would think about that before you decide to be our representative, and whether you really, because I think as a property owner in that district, I don't know if you're one of the parcels that's affected or not.
He is.
Definitely affected.
So-
But even, I think your idea is it's an informal reporter to the proceedings.
Right.
But I don't know that it would be considered that
Okay.
if somebody's questioning. So I would just suggest that you maybe think about that further, or maybe
Protect yourself.
ask the
Right.
question. Because it's a natural, to me, it's a natural conflict
Right.
for you personally and your own personal interest in your real estate. So I would.
I mean,
just
anybody on
ask
the
that.
board would be welcome to join us. If there's gonna be a quorum of the planning board, you would have to post it. So I would need to know in advance, but, you know, it'll be on the town website, there'll be
Can you send the
information.
members of the board notice?
Yeah, I'll let you know when stuff happens.
Like
But I
that,
would
yeah.
need to know if you're going to attend, because,
I understand.
yeah, I would need to post it.
Yeah.
But there's no need or requirement that the planning board designate a liaison from the planning board to.
No, and that's why I didn't think there'd be a motion necessary, just, you know, to allow him to attend, to speak his mind, and we know he's so bashful.
I just think it
Mary-
puts him in an awkward position.
Yeah,
I do,
think-
for his own financial interest.
I agree with Mary. I think it
But
has the
that-
potential to
But I
put-
have to say, that's not my decision to make, that's his.
Right.
Right, so I just,
Right.
I want to raise the issue for you so that you can ponder it and you can make your own decision, but if you want to talk and you're talking your own stuff, it'd be no different here. If it was something that was coming before us, you'd recuse yourself, but you could speak on your own personal interests, so
Right.
I just think about that and ponder that. Again, your decision to make, and I just want to flag that before we tacitly send you down a primrose path that's gonna, it's gonna cause you grief later on.
While we're talking about administrative matters, Charlene, could you look at the question of whether or not the building inspector,
Building commissioner?
building commissioner, thank you, should attend our meetings?
For what purpose?
Any questions that come up with respect to his position?
He generally does not attend regulatory meetings. That's why I'm here.
Well,
I,
would you give it some thought and maybe just send us a note as to what your thoughts are on it?
I think it's entirely up to him whether he wants to attend or not. It's not part of his duties based on his job description.
Well, we're invariably referring things to him, or we're going to him to find things out and so forth. Just a thought. It's up to you.
It's not up to me.
It's really up to the board, I know that.
You can ask him to attend, whether he will or not, I can't speak to that.
Yeah. Well, we wouldn't ask him. We'd of course address the thing to the town administrator. All of you would just give it some thought and have some idea as to whether or not you think it would benefit this board to have him in attendance. And I'm not asking you to respond now. We can talk about it in another meeting. Okay.
One last question. LCP, do
Local
we have any
comprehensive plan, that is
status or
not moving anywhere at this point.
nothing happening?
Okay,
Okay.
motion to adjourn?
I think Mary.
Second.
Done.